Hey guys, this is Rob Lopicola, and I am thrilled that you're here. And I'm assuming at this point you believe you are a sex addict, and some areas of your life are becoming unmanageable because of your sex addiction and your behaviors, and that you are looking for a way out, a way to break free from your sex addiction and those sexual behaviors that have held you captive. And on some level, you are physically and mentally burnt out. You have some form of emotional bankruptcy that's coming from your acting out sexual behavior. Well, you're in the right spot. And what we're going to talk about today are 4 steps or 4 strategies that's going to help you break free from your sex addiction and emotional bankruptcy. I was there. I was at a point in my life where I was totally hopeless. I was emotionally and physically burnt out. I was at a point where I prayed to God to die in my sleep. I lost all purpose, all vestige of hope for a better design of living, a better way of life. I lost it all, and I wanted to die. And I had a spiritual advisor that came in, snatched me up, and taught me an entirely new design for living, techniques and strategies that would totally transform my life. And today, I'm a healthy, thriving individual. And my mission is to help you who is struggling with sex addiction and maybe some other addictions mixed in there. I also was addicted to alcohol and meth, which fed my sex addiction. And I'm here to help you break free from sex addiction and live life as a thriving, successful, healthy individual. So these are the 4 steps we're going to look at today. Step number 1, fully aware that your way does not work. Number 2, fully ready to let every belief about yourself, your behaviors, and your way of figuring it out go. Number 3, fully ready to discover a power greater than your intense will to live your way and your way of doing things. And 4, fully aware of your historic life patterns. You have to be at a point where you are 100% aware of these things. Because if there's any room for negotiating with your sex addiction, and you believe you still want to negotiate with your sex addiction, you want to figure it out still on your own, this is not the place for you. Here, where you're at with me, is you are going to discover an entirely new design for living, but there's no reservations, there's no negotiating with sex addiction. When you negotiate with sex addiction, you lose. You will not win. There is no negotiating with sex addiction. So let's get right down to the nitty-gritty. Let's take a look at the 4 strategies. Once again, we're going to break it down one at a time. So here's the first one again. Fully aware that my way does not work. You must be 100% fully aware that your way of doing things is not working. You may have been struggling with this sex addiction for many, many years, and you have probably been trying to figure out how to live your life, keep your relationships, keep your career, and yet balance out the sex addiction. Being able to still do what you want sexually, yet keep all the other areas of your life in check. And it's very, very difficult to nearly impossible to do that. You have to be at a point where you are 100% aware that doing this doesn't work. I have been where you're at with that struggle with sex addiction, the hopelessness and the inferior, and living in secrecy and cheating and lying. Just that inferiority that comes with that, and feeling like an imposter in life, wearing masks everywhere just to be who I need to be, depending on the venue I'm at, because I was losing a sense of who I was because of my sex addiction. And there is a way out. There is a new design. There is a better life. Believe me, oh, believe me, that if I can live a peaceful, serene life as a thriving individual today, from the mess, the severe mess I was, and if I can live as a thriving individual today and healthy and balanced with some level of self-mastery in my life, where I have self-control over my decisions and I live peacefully, if I can do it, believe me, you can. And I want that to be your hope. I want that to be the hope that yes, your way doesn't work, but there is a way and there is a design. And I want to give you hope. You find someone who has what you want, you do what they do, you'll get what they have. It'll work. That's one of the strategies that will help to change and transform your life from where you are now to where you dream of being. Number 2, fully ready to let every belief about yourself, your behaviors, and your way of figuring it out go. You have to be 100%. Now, the first strategy is being aware that your way doesn't work. Now you have to be ready to let it all go. You have to be ready and willing to let your way go. In other words, everything that you believe about yourself, about sex addiction, about your behaviors, about your way of figuring it out, you have to let it all go. And you have to be willing to do that. It's very hard to do that. It's very hard to let the ego out of it. Because the ego wants to be in charge. Who wants to admit? Do you really want to admit that you're a sex addict? I mean, it almost seems horrible and weak to say I'm a sex addict. But there's power in facing the truth. And the hardest thing for anyone in the world to do is face the truth about themselves. Are you going to allow the truth about you be so difficult that you're not going to be able to change and transform it for yourself? Or are you willing to face the truth about you? Face the truth about your sex addiction. And you must be willing and ready to let any ideology that you can do this on your own go. Let go of everything you believe about your behaviors and about yourself. Go. For example, there is a belief as a sex addict that one more fix will make me finally feel better. Going to the sex club one more time, I'll finally get that high I have been searching for. Let me find one more man to go on a date with who's going to finally answer that loneliness question I have about myself. I'm going to find a solution in another person. Let me go on one more date. See, we have to let go of all those beliefs, all those behaviors, and you have to be willing and ready to let it go. And if you're not going to change yet. You're not ready. You have to be ready to let all that go. Number 3, fully ready to discover a power greater than your intense will to live your way and your way of doing things. It's almost natural for individuals to want to do things our way. I want to do it my way. A lot of times parents will tell their child, if you do that, here's what's going to happen. And then most of the time, the child does it anyway because it's going to be different for them and winds up the same. So you have to be fully ready to discover a power greater than your intense will to do it your way. It's very powerful to want to do something my way, and I have to let that go. Typically in sex addiction, we feel very alone and isolated, unworthy, inferior, and very shameful about the things that we're doing or have done. We may even carry a lot of guilt for the things that we have done. And it's very, very hard to carry that all by ourselves. So we need to get involved with someone that, or a program, or a group that understands where I'm at, understands how I feel, where I can be open. My spiritual advisor always told me that you bring darkness to the light and the darkness disappears. You walk in a dark room and turn the light on, the darkness disappears. We need to bring this stuff to the light. And we do that by separating the attachment to our bodies, separating the attachment to material things, separating the attachment to sex. See, the ego, which is our will, the ego has a way of believing and convincing you that for you to be whole, for you to be complete, for you to be a well-rounded, full person, you need more. Sex, drugs, money, bigger house, better car, better job, higher position. For the sex addict, I need more sex. That's what's going to make me feel whole and complete. That's the ego. And when we live in ego, we live in our own will, we live within ourselves, buried in our way of doing things. And again, if that's what you're doing, you're going to keep living how you're living. So we attach ourselves not to our bodies, not to sex, not to the egotistical things. We want to connect to a power that is more powerful than our own will, our own desires. And for some people, that is the biblical God. For some people, it's nature, the universe, the ocean, water. You find a power that's greater than you. And you learn how to connect to that higher power, because in sex addiction, we are so disconnected and isolated. And that's an illusion that our ego has created for us, and we believe that. So you have to connect to something greater than your desire and will to do it your way. And I'll give you an example of what I did, and you have to find your way. And in time, we can help figure out for you your way of attaching yourself to a higher power. I literally went down to the beach and walking on the beach like Moses, trying to stop the water, the waves from coming in, and the waves kept coming in. And I tried to stop the clouds coming in from the water, and the clouds kept coming in. And I tried to stop the wind even with both hands, and the wind didn't stop. And I discovered that there's a power out there greater than me. And it's nature, it's the vibration of the universe. And quantum physics proves that everything's a vibration. From thoughts down to our physical bodies, everything in nature is a vibration. So I have discovered a way to connect to a power greater than me, a power greater than my will. And that vibrational attachment to that thing greater than me, the universe, has helped break free from sex addiction and live a life as a healthy, thriving individual. Number 4, fully aware of your historic life pattern. This is huge. This is probably the biggest of the 4 here. A lot of times we don't remember when things just worked out beautifully. There were times in your life when things worked out beautifully. When you got the job you wanted, or the boyfriend you wanted, or the car you wanted that seemed impossible, yet you got it. If you take a look at your history and you take a look at patterns, separate two two columns, let's say. One column will be all of the things in your life that worked out beautifully, perhaps even better than you anticipated. And then there's another column where you were falling into the pit of sex addiction and loneliness and isolation and misery and failure. And you take a look at where you were spiritually, mentally, emotionally, when things just worked out beautifully. And what was your mindset like when they were working out, feeding the addiction? What was your health, mental state, social life? What was that like when things were working out beautifully for you? And then what was your mindset, social life? What were you doing when all of these things in this column of sex addiction were taking place? When you lost everything, or when the relationship failed, or when you were really deeply rooted in sex addiction, what was your pattern at that time? And you want to decipher and see these two patterns in your life, and what were you doing in each of them? And you'll start to see a couple of things. One, you'll see a pattern. You'll see a pattern of when life was great. You'll see a pattern of when life was miserable. But it's going to give you hope, which goes right back to the beginning, the first of the 4 strategies. It's going to give you hope because you're going to see in your patterns that there were times when things worked out beautifully, better than anticipated. And you're going to see what your life was like then. Were you working out harder? Were you eating healthier? Were you not watching pornography at the time? Were you more social? What were some of the things happening in your life at that time when things were working out beautifully? And you'll start to see that you have been tapped into a better way of living. And then what we're going to take a look at are those patterns and really delve into the patterns in your history when you were doing great. And then we nurture those patterns and we reinstill those patterns in your life today with full force. And then, of course, we integrate new strategies, new techniques, new steps to bring you farther and farther and farther and farther up the ladder away from sex addiction and emotional bankruptcy. I hope that you got a aha moment somewhere in here, and I hope that these 4 strategies give you hope that you can think and live and behave differently.